πτώση των τιμών πετρελαίου συμπαρέσυρε και την τιμή των καυσίμων, η οποία μειώθηκε όμως λιγότερο. Γιατί συμβαίνει αυτό, θα συνεχιστεί αυτή η τάση?
Δεν μπορούμε να περιμένουμε μια αναλογική μείωση των τιμών του πετρελαίου και της τιμής της βενζίνης για δύο λόγους. Ο πρώτος είναι ότι η τιμή του πετρελαίου ορίζεται με βάση το δολάριο και συνήθως το αγοράζουμε με κάποιο άλλο νόμισμα. Για παράδειγμα, η Ευρώπη αγοράζει πετρελαίο με ευρώ, άρα παίζει ρόλο η ισοτιμία ευρώ-δολαρίου. Ο δεύτερος λόγος είναι ότι στην τιμή των καυσίμων περιλαμβάνονται και πολύ συγκεκριμένοι φόροι. Για παράδειγμα, στη Γαλλία υπάρχει αύξηση 50% της τιμής λόγω φόρων. Αυτό σημαίνει ότι στην περίπτωση της Γαλλίας μια μείωση 50% της τιμής του πετρελαίου που είναι σε δολάρια, όταν η μετατροπή γίνεται σε ευρώ, η μείωση θα είναι κατά 40%. Αν προσθέσουμε στην τιμή και τους φόρους, αυτό συνεπάγεται τελικά ότι η μείωση είναι μόλις 17%. Η δεύτερη ερώτηση αφορά αν αυτή η κατάσταση διαρκέσει. Όλοι οι οικονομολόγοι συμφωνούν ότι οι τιμές του πετρελαίου θα ανέβουν ξανά. Αντιθέτως, υπάρχει διαμάχη όσον αφορά πού θα φτάσουν, αλλά επίσης και το χρόνο που θα σημειωθεί αυτή η άνοδος. Σύμφωνα με το Διεθνή Οργανισμό Ενέργειας, η τιμή θα αυξηθεί τα επόμενα 2 χρόνια. Άλλοι θεσμοί έχουν κάνει πιο αισιόδοξες προβλέψεις. Κατά τη γνώμη μου, η τιμή ίσως αυξηθεί το δεύτερο εξάμηνο του 2015. Αυτό που πρέπει να ξέρουμε είναι ότι όσο η μείωση των τιμών συνεχίζεται, τόσο πιο ισχυρή αναμένεται να είναι η επερχόμενη αύξηση. Γιατί σήμερα η τιμή πετρελαίου είναι τόσο χαμηλή, ώστε οι επενδύσεις που έχουν γίνει σε μη συμβατικές πηγές εξόρυξης πετρελαίου, όπως το σχιστολιθικό, δεν αφήνουν περιθώριο κέρδους. Άρα θα έχουμε λιγότερες επενδύσεις, άρα μικρότερη προσφορά, άρα μεγαλύτερες πιέσεις για αύξηση των τιμών. Οπότε η πτώση των τιμών των καυσίμων δεν μπορεί παρά να είναι προσωρινή. Εάν θέλετε να θέσετε μια ερώτηση, επισκεφτείτε την ιστοσελίδα ή τα μέσα κοινωνικής δικτύωσης του Euronews.
Ακόμα και κάτω από τα $50 το βαρέλι βρέθηκε η τιμή του Brent την Τετάρτη. Πρόκειται για νέο χαμηλό πενταετίας. Η νέα πτώση ήρθε μετά τη δημοσίευση των εβδομαδιαίων στοιχείων για τα αμερικανικά αποθέματα βενζίνης και πετρελαίου εσωτερικής καύσης, τα οποία σημείωσαν απροσδόκητη αύξηση. Η συνεχής πτώση του πετρελαίου ευνοεί τα νοικοκυριά, καθώς προκαλεί γενικότερη αποκλιμάκωση των τιμών. Αυτό καταγράφηκε και στα τελευταία στοιχεία για τον πληθωρισμό στην Ευρωζώνη, που πέρασε σε αρνητικό έδαφος. Ωστόσο, κάποιοι αναλυτές ανησυχούν για τις μακροπρόθεσμες συνέπειες. Πριν τα Χριστούγεννα όλοι έλεγαν πόσο καλό είναι για τους καταναλωτές και για την παγκόσμια οικονομία να πέφτει το πετρέλαιο. Όπως είχα επισημάνει και τότε, υπάρχουν μερικές ιδιαίτερα αρνητικές συνέπειες. Μία εξ αυτών είναι η πιθανή γεωπολιτική ένταση από κάποιες πετρελαιοπαραγωγές χώρες, κυρίως πιστεύω από τη Ρωσία. Μία ακόμα πιθανή αρνητική εξέλιξη είναι ο αφανισμός των μικρών παραγωγών πετρελαίου, κυρίως στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες. Σε μια τέτοια περίπτωση, ο κόσμος θα γυρίσει στο πρώτερο καθεστώς, όπου τα μέλη του ΟΠΕΚ και κυρίως η Σαουδική Αραβία διαμόρφωναν τις τιμές κατά το δοκούν.
Oil prices slumped to a 5-year low today, with US crude briefly breaching the symbolic $50 threshold. Let's go live now to our correspondent Marina Portnoy, who's in New York and has more on this story. Marina, how are the markets reacting to what has been this continued fall?
Well, the reaction has been painful, to say the least. The Dow plunged over 300 points in midday trading Monday as stock markets around the world fell sharply. The S&P 500 index slid 37 points, while the NASDAQ composite index dropped 67 points. Now, shares of energy companies posted the biggest loss in the S&P 500, sliding 4%. Now, the cause of market jitters is due to falling oil prices. Crude oil is now trading at around $50, at one point briefly dipping below that level on Monday. Now, some experts believe that oil could eventually drop as low as $30 a barrel. For U.S. consumers, this has been thoroughly embraced because gas prices have dropped to $2 or less at the pump. However, the low prices have become very painful for energy companies and the people they employ around the world. America's once booming energy sector is also seeing a curb in profits. Now, if the price of oil keeps dropping, some experts say it will have a negative impact on the U.S. economy amid the country's resurgent domestic oil production.
OK, thank you to our correspondent Marina Portnoy. That's her with the latest there from New York. And I think we can speak now to economic journalist Clem Chambers to get a bit more insight on the falling markets. Clem, indeed, there you are. Thanks so much for coming on to RT. The global markets, we've just been looking at it, they have fallen sharply. Why is that happening? I mean, companies suddenly don't lose value, do they, just because of a plummeting oil price? What's the connection?
Well, I mean, markets do behave rather like snow, and you can get avalanches, but people often confuse the reasons for these avalanches. Oil is falling because American QE ended about 6 weeks ago. The markets are extremely high because with the end of QE, the dollar's going up and everyone's piling into stocks in the dollar. So that's been driving the markets very high. Now, they've all come back for Christmas. Oil's fallen off because of the strong dollar, and people are starting to get frightened that the markets are too high. So they're coming down. You've got oil coming down, which pushes the market down further, and you get these kind of vicious circles at the top of a market. And we're in a top of a market in the US, and therefore the market is going to come down and come down hard. It's not a correlation between oil and the markets. The causation is the end of $1 trillion worth of new money that America has been printed.
How does geopolitics fit in with this and what's happening with oil prices?
Well, a lot of people like a simple answer, and they like to talk about geopolitics. But the real answer is not geopolitics, it's economic politics. And for the last 5 years, Europe, Japan, America, and many other countries have been syncing up to try to rescue the world economy from the collapse of 2008. And that came to an end. The first round came to an end when America stop printing $1 trillion a year. That's just a vast amount of money. Take any population and divide it into $1 trillion and you realize how big that move is. Well, that's finished. Before it finished, you could borrow money from the American government at 1% and buy oil with it and sell it into the future and make 5%. So you could get 4% free money. And that was driving or keeping the oil price high because of the ability to do what's called a carry trade. And there's been a massive oil carry trade, but with the end of QE, that's had to come to an end or has been curtailed. And that's one of the reasons there's downward pressure on oil prices, because people can't buy oil, put it in a tanker, park the tanker, sell the oil 9 months down the line for 5% more, wait 9 months and pocket the 5%, because they can't borrow the money off the American government for nothing. And that is a big downdraft on oil. And the end of QE means that equities which have been pumped up by QE are not on such good ground. But because QE ends, the dollar goes up, the world piles into dollars and parks them in the down. Well, that can't go on forever either. And we're now seeing the end of that run. And quite possibly, the American markets and with them the European markets will go into free fall for a few weeks. So we could be in for a very, very, very rough ride over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
This is fascinating stuff. What happens if the oil price continues to drop? What do you think the repercussions will be? Well,
you've got to ask yourself, when the markets collapsed in 2008, oil didn't collapse. It stayed up at $110 a barrel. Yes, there is more supply, but will oil actually stay down here? What is the correct price of oil? Well, the correct price of oil is $80 a barrel, because at $80 a barrel, you can turn food into energy. Okay, so if it gets more expensive, if oil gets more expensive than $80 a barrel, you start turning food into energy. Below $80 a barrel, you turn energy into food. So $80 a barrel is about the right price. And there's only so long you can go on below $80, in the same way there's only so long you can go on above it. So we're now gone from being too expensive to probably too cheap. How long it takes to right itself? In a world where people print trillions of dollars, it's hard to predict.
Now, the US has partially lifted a 4-decade-old ban on oil exports. Why is that happening, and what will the effects be?
Well, they've got a lot of oil now. I mean, the reason that they weren't allowing oil, raw oil, to be sent out was that they wanted to add value by actually refining it. But now, because of all the oil sands and the fracking, they've got more oil, and therefore they feel cool about shipping out. Remember, only a decade and a half ago, they actually built gas import terminals to take liquefied gas from the Middle East and bring it into America. Now they're using the same facilities to export it because they've got all this oil and gas, which has been brought about by fracking and by shale oil and all that unconventional oil, which has been exploited and discovered because oil prices went so high. When oil prices go too high, people find new ways to find energy, and they found huge amounts of gas and oil, and now it makes sense for America to export it.
Extremely educating to speak to. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. That's Clem Chambers, author, journalist, and CEO of ADVFN. That's Europe's leading stocks and markets website. Very busy at the moment, I am sure.
Saudi Arabia is the world's second largest exporter of crude oil. Nearly 10 million barrels of oil are produced in the kingdom every day. But 6 months of falling prices have dented the profit margins. At an OPEC meeting in Abu Dhabi on Sunday, Saudi Arabia blamed non-OPEC countries for the fall. It said it will not cut its production levels if others do not do so first.
We do not know what can happen in the future, but what we know for sure is that those who have the most and best production will control the market.
But this decision could hurt other members of OPEC. Countries like Venezuela need to sell their oil at $118 per barrel in order to balance the budget. The current price is fluctuating around $60 a barrel.
We are not at a disaster. This happened before. We're just at a short term of oversupply. This oversupply will be fixed because the market is strong.
Some analysts say another factor in the volatility of prices is the rise of shale gas.
What's clear is that there's increasing concern in the Gulf about the rising levels of US output from shale gas, and concern that they will increasingly lose market share and the United States will become oil independent.
Shale gas currently represents around a quarter of US gas production. But such is the demand, that figure is expected to double in the next 20 years. Leading OPEC members from the Gulf say they will ride out this current storm in oil prices. But as things stand, that could cost them around $350 billion a year.